All right, welcome to Marketing Clarity with Outlaunch. My name is CJ Cordes. I'm the CEO of Outlaunch. This is a 20-minute session every single Friday. We go quick. We want to, be, conscious of your time. And what we do is talk about a marketing topic in layman's terms, meaning not for technical people in the industry, but for business owners like yourselves who just want to hear it straight. So this week, backlinks, blogs, and the long game. Okay, so if you've stopped running any ads that you're doing, would you still be found? That's kind of the key because when we're running ads, we're kind of renting space. And when we stop running those ads, then we're not renting that space anymore. So we're out of that space. So we want to be found long term. We want to be found consistently. We want to be on the internet and different platforms as consistent as we can. So with that being said, um, why the long game still wins? Because a lot of people jump around. Google changes all the time. AI's, in the game. It's changing all the time. So now we make these assumptions like old things don't necessarily work as well, like backlinks, like blogs, like press releases, those kind of things. But that's just not the case. They work differently for sure, but it's not the case that we have to like all of a sudden stop one thing and move to another thing. We have to look at the long game as a whole. So when we're looking at being found online or in AI platforms, which is now we want to look at these side by sides, they're equal. We're not even shifting to AI and still not looking at online. We want to be found online and in AI platforms equally because people are still going to both. And the long game is basically what we call building authority. And authority is where on the internet you are looked at as a reputable source. And that's how AI and Google choose anyone that they put at the top is by saying who is the most reputable source, who has the most authority in this industry to be able to be placed or mentioned when someone does a search. Now, backlinks still give us that authority. Backlinks have always been there for authority. And what a backlink is, for those of you who just want full clarity on backlinks, it's whenever you have content on another website, not your website. You have your website here with all your content, and then you have content on another website. And that content links to your website. So that connection, that link is called a backlink. It's a link back to your site from another site. And backlinks still drive authority. And what that means is it means that if your website is out here floating in space by yourself, not linked to anyone, then Google's going to see a website that's not connected to anyone, and it's going to think, well, what kind of strength and what's going on with this website? It's out there alone. It's got a few pages, nothing going on with it. Does it really provide authority in the industry? Whereas a competitor is linked to all kinds of stuff, and that alone provides more authority. But here's the deal. It's not the same as it used to be. Just because you have 2,000 backlinks compared to this guy who's got 100 backlinks, all of a sudden that doesn't mean that this guy with 2,000 has more authority than you. He might have 2,000 backlinks from junk websites. And now that actually makes him look even worse, where you only have 100 backlinks, but they're from reputable sites. And that's what we want to look at whenever we're thinking about backlinks and blogs and press releases. So we're going to go through all three: backlinks, blogs, press releases. So with backlinks in particular, we want AI in particular is focused on hyper local. So it used to be that you just get a backlink on any kind of website. So find a blog that's international. Maybe you're serving a local city, but you've got an international blog, and that blog is about, a service industry. So it's part of your industry, but it's like a large international blog. And because that blog's got so much authority itself, because it's such a big site, now you've got a link to it, and that's great. Now, that's not a bad thing. As long as it's relevant to your industry, it's topical, it's not just random. Now, if you're on random websites, random blogs, has nothing to do with your industry, has nothing to do with your location, has nothing to do with anything relating to you, just a link because it's a high traffic site, that is not a reputable backlink, and that's not going to help you at all. It's just there. And it could actually become what we call a toxic backlink. So there's a couple ways to look at it. If you are topical, so you're in industry in HVAC, and now you're on a website that relates to HVAC, but maybe it's not super local, but it's really high relevance and topical compared to your industry, and you got a link to that, that's still not a bad thing. But AI these days is really wanting hyper local. So your local chamber, like let's say I'm, in a city outside of Dallas, and let's say I join my local chamber and I get a link to my website from my local chamber. That is very relevant because it's hyper local. It's related to business. It makes sense that I'm there. Now let's say I partner up with another local company and we talk to each other and say, hey, I do great services, you do great services, we both service the same type of people, we're in the same area. Could I get a link from your website, maybe as a resource, a community type page on your website or a blog? And now I've got a hyperlocal link. Sometimes there's directories, or I'm sorry, blogs, local blog companies or local blog websites that could be a great because it's hyperlocal. So we still want relevance of topics in industry. We still want hyper-local, community-based links from those websites. And we don't want, backlinks from big random sources that have nothing to do with what's going on. So those links still matter. Those links still show a website that's connected, it's active, it's relevant, it's servicing a location in a territory, and that are the signals that drive authority for your website. Whereas the person who's gave up on backlinks and just sitting there with no backlinks is not as strong. And again, the person with too many backlinks that are acquired too quickly from unrelevant sources is not as strong either. That's what we call toxic. Okay, so backlinks, yes, still important. But when you're talking to an agency who's helping you get backlinks, ask them these questions. Where do you get them? How many are getting? If they say something like, I got 100 backlinks that's about to drop, then well, it's like, whoa, pump the brakes. Like, how are you even getting 100 backlinks like that? Google doesn't want to see 100 backlinks like that. Here's the reality of backlinks. Last thing I'll say about it. If you're an agency or someone in business, you're trying to get backlinks. That's what you want. So you're trying to find reputable sources and you're trying to put good content. But Google really doesn't want that so much. Google wants those backlinks to come naturally. And how does a backlink come natural? If you post great content, you have a great blog article and or a great web page or a great, press release. You just posting great content, then that content should get found and people search for and they find your content and say, wow, that is a wonderful article. I'm going to link to it from my blog because I'm writing a blog and I want to dive deeper, and wow, you have a great article that goes deeper. I'm going to link to that. So the whole theory of backlinks for Google, or the whole expectations that the internet has, I say Google, but let's just, go into AI, everything. The whole expectations is that you're putting out great content. That content's getting found. People want to link to that content, and now you have a backlink, and that's an organic, natural way to do it. Now, an agency is trying to follow those organic practices, but they're trying to, acquire it for you. Oh, where can I reach out to this person and ask them if I can be on their site because I've got great content? It's still not bad practices, but it's not exactly like what Google's assuming is happening here. So you have to make it seem like this is happening naturally. Okay, so I want to touch on press releases before I jump into blogs, because press releases is something that's often overlooked, unthought about. People in the industry, business owners, I bet many of you are like, press release, like, why would I need a press release? What's the point of a press release? How's that going to help me in AI? How's that going to help me in search engines? It's just more like, oh, I've got a news article topic and now, I need a press release. That's the only time that ever really comes up. It rarely comes up in the idea of SEO. But here's the deal. Press release mentioned your brand. So anytime you put out a press article, your brand is now mentioned on the internet. So a press release isn't a backlink. We're not, when you post a press release on a news website, you're not trying to get a backlink to your website. Like that's not the goal of a press release. That's, backlinks are required through articles that are topical and answer questions. Um, but let me also just back to the backlink 2 seconds. Every time you get a backlink, do not get one with a keyword like HVAC near me. You want to use your brand name. So you still want to use your brand, your company name that links back to your website. That's a big no-no going outside of your brand name, or just visit website. That's fine too, but not, trying a keyword placement. Okay, so now brand name on press release side. When you're doing press release articles, I'm sorry, not articles, you're doing press releases, and you're getting information and news about your business out, it's all about mentioning your brand. And who loves brand mentions more than AI? AI loves brand mentions. So press releases is more important than ever right now because of AI. So the more that your brand is mentioned across the internet, then the more that AI is going to find that, scoop it up, and they're going to find all this information about you. And that information is hopefully great information. And then they're going to, mention you. It's literally called a mention in AI. Like if you like do a search in AI and you ask whatever you want to be mentioned. So if you want to be mentioned in AI, whenever someone asks a question or does something topical, then it makes sense that you want brand mentions out on the web as much as you can. AI is also very heavy with reviews and whatnot. So AI is looking everywhere to find reputation about you, find information, find news. So press release, it's all news related. You can't have a press release article that's like a blog article that answers a question, because that's not what press is. I mean, press is news. Press is announcements. Press is updates. So anytime anything is newsworthy within your business, oh, so and so business just added a whole new division. So and so business, just expanded its operations. So and so business just hired 5 new people to enter the market here. So and so business just got this award. We just entered this space. We're now doing this thing. Just anything that you can think of that you're doing that becomes an announcement um, about your business, or a newsworthy, event, those kind of things. So, um, because you don't want to just write press releases for no reason. You don't want to write a press release that's not news, but you're trying to spin it as news. People know when they read something that it's just, it's not real, so you want to be real, you want to be excited, you want to give a real announcement. But there's a lot of things in business that can be announced that doesn't have to be a giant award. Like if you're a company who gets and you're a service company who has 4 trucks, and now you got a 5th truck and a new tech, like that's a big deal for your business. You've just added a new truck, you've added a new tech, you can now service more people. Like, what a great announcement to make. XYZ plumber has expanded to 5 trucks with so and so tech who's been in the industry for whatever years, and we love to share and announce this great news. What does this mean? This means we can take on more projects in a quicker timeline. So press releases is not something to be overlooked. It's not something to be pushed aside. It's something to be incorporated into your AI and search marketing game. Um, let's see, and blogs. Now we're going to move on to blogs. Blogs is one of those things where we all know what a blog is because it's very easy to understand. You go to a website, you see a post, you read an article, and that's a blog. So people love blogs because, and when I say people, I mean business owners. Business owners love blogs because business owners, when they see the blog, they know that their agency is doing work for them. Oh, there's blog posts every month, twice a month, like they're working, because sometimes the other work is not easy to understand. Whenever we say, I got you a backlink, that's not easy to understand as much as, oh, I posted a blog. So business owners can get real fixated on blogs, and blogs can be great and they can be useless, and they can actually work against you at times too. So think about the point of a blog, especially if you're like an HVAC or a plumber, which, every industry can have articles that answer questions. But think about a blog. A blog is an article that answers a question. It's kind of like frequently asked questions, so to speak, just expanded into in-depth articles that answer questions. Your blog is not a press release announcement place. Your blog is not a place where you go say, plumber near me, because that makes no sense. The blog is articles that help your customer and your viewer of your website dive deeper onto topics that help educate them about your industry. So um, the way to look at it is I'd rather have less of these that are very topical and answer very specific questions than have ton of them that are blah and random and don't really help. And here's the interesting thing on from an agency like myself. Um, we'll go and take a site that just came to us, and they'll have 200 blogs on it. So we'll audit the whole site, and we say, let's look at all 200 of these blogs. And you know what the funny thing is? Yeah, you might have 200 blogs, and those blogs might have been sitting there for 5+ years, but maybe 150 of them have zero traffic, no views. No one's looking at that article. That article is sitting there for 2, 3 years. No one views it. Maybe 2, 3 people viewed it in a year. Is that article helping anyone? No, that article is helping no one. So what does Google see and the internet see with that? That's called unhelpful content. So why do you have a site full of junk, unhelpful content? Now, there's a reason that sometimes those articles aren't found. One of the reasons is it's not good content. So it's not even a good article to begin with. Now, another reason might be that it's out there, but there's no way to really find it. Like on the website, there's no links to drive to it. No one's ever made a backlink to it. No one's ever posted it on social media. No one's ever put it out there. So you got this great content that's just kind of not working itself up the way it could, but it really could be useful content if someone found it. So what's a good way to boost that kind of stuff? That's where you could take a blog and you can actually try to get backlinks to it, that are topical related. And then you could also post those on social media. You could also put them maybe on the front page of your website when you have a new article. Hey, check out this great new article, link to it. Anytime you have great content, you want to find ways to get people to it. So then if you can drive people to that content and they stay on that content and read it all, then Google sees, wow, this is getting a lot of traffic. People are reading this, and therefore we're going to keep pushing it up. Now, on the AI side of things, it's going to be more like someone asks a detailed question. And if you answered that detailed question in your article, then hopefully they'll connect the dots. So let's say you have a service company and someone goes to the internet and asks a very specific question about a service company. How does a pipe install under the sink, blah, 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 blah. And your website, you're a plumber, but nowhere on your website do you go as in depth as to talk about, the pipe under the sink and, some of the commonalities and problems that may exist there. Well, if you wrote an article that went in depth about a specific, thing like that, then someone does a search for that specific thing. That's how they connect the dots. So just having a website with basic content isn't going to be able to provide the content that AI is going to pick up when someone types a specific question. When people go to AI, they go in depth and very specific. So when they're going specific, you want to go specific on your site to answer those questions to hope it gets picked up in AI. So hopefully, and then I'll just say the last thing because we got about a minute to wrap it up here. With right now, what people are doing is they're using AI to write their blogs, and they're like, yay, I can write a blog in 5 minutes, and I can do 10 of them a month. So now your website's pumping 10 blogs out a month. They were written by AI. You didn't really put any effort into it. So AI just recycled junk it found. Found junk, recycled, recycled, recycled. You contributed nothing new. You are an expert in your industry, but all you did was say, write an article about this. You contribute none of your expertise to that. AI did all the work. It recycled junk. It put out 10 new blogs. And now you have hundreds of blogs out there that have zero traffic. And that's not what we want. We want your expertise contributing something new to the internet that can dive deep into topics that AI can pick up and give to the people who are searching for that great content. So it's not about a lot of content, it's about great content. So that's the long game. The long game wins if you stay consistent. Good backlinks, nice PR announcements, great blogs that are very relevant on answering questions. So that's what I would focus on for your business. A lot of that can be done yourself, actually. But if you want a agency, then make sure they're doing it the right way. So next week, your website is either working for you or it's working against you. And I already just mentioned with blogs how it can be in backlinks, how it can be working against you. So we're going to dive deep. Your website's either working for you or it's working against you next Friday, 9 o'clock Central, 20 minutes. All right. Have a great weekend, everyone.